Hi everyone, Ariana here from Well Fed Photography, and today I've asked Elaine from Cuidiú to join us to tell us a bit more about Cuidiú and its services, because what I found is when I was interviewing people for our book of breastfeeding stories, there were so many people who commented on the fact that they just weren't aware of all the services that were available to them. So I would love to raise awareness around that, and so I thank Elaine so much for being here. You're very welcome, Elaine, and it'd be great if you can tell us a bit more about Cuidiú, its history and its services.
Sure. Thanks, Emil, for having me, Ariana. So Cuidiú started over 25 years ago. It was started by a couple of women who came over. They had come over from the UK, and in England at the time, they had what's called the Childbirth Trust, and they set up their own version of it here, and they called it the Irish Childbirth Trust. And for many years, Cuidiú traded under that particular name, and then over the years, we grew and we have branches now, 25 branches around the country and a few groups. And we have formed a legal charity and a company, and we are providing training to over, we have 500 volunteers nationwide doing different bits and pieces.
Wow, that's amazing. And what's your own role within Cuidiú?
I am a breastfeeding counsellor. I'm 2 years qualified, and I am also a volunteer at my local branch. I'm the coordinator of the Dublin County North branch, and I'm also the grants officer for the Administrative Council.
Wow.
So, many hats.
That's a lot of hats that you're wearing, and well done. I know it's just such an amazing and supportive organization. I've had many friends recommend Cuidiú to me, and lots of other people, especially people that are being featured in the book, speak about how helpful that going to Cuidiú and its meetings has been for them. So I love if you can actually speak more about the services that are offered, because my understanding is it's a little different than the likes of, say, Friends of Breastfeeding or La Leche League, because it has breastfeeding supports, but it also has more general parenting supports as well.
Absolutely. So we have three different arms, if you'd like, for the organisation. There's the antenatal. So Antenatal Ireland are an arm of Cuidiú who have trained antenatal teachers. And the antenatal teachers train for 2 to 3 years to become qualified in, I suppose, to become qualified in teaching antenatal classes. And then we have a couple of very experienced tutors, and we have also got some advanced teachers who do things like the birth reflections for people who have had their labour and they want to reflect on it, particularly if they're coming into a second or third pregnancy and they want to reflect back on how the first labour went. And then for postnatally, we have our breastfeeding support groups and our counsellors. And our counsellors, we have over 200 counsellors trained at the minute, with more in training. So the HSC support us for our breastfeeding training, and we also have a large batch of volunteers who are still part of our village, still part of our community, and they are running toddler groups when we're allowed to run them. There's book clubs, there's sewing clubs, arts and crafts, rock painting, you name it. If there's a personal interest, there's usually a Cuidiú group somewhere that's doing it. So we try and provide an outlet, particularly for people who are in an area where they don't have immediate family around and they're not quite sure. Everything from our conversations range from sleep or lack thereof in the early days to the schools, the creches, how to find childminders, just how to juggle work with home life, anything that, and we are very much a parenting organisation. We've got male volunteers doing dad groups, and we have mother links and parent links and evening links, and really it's just a social outfit for families.
I love that. And actually, as someone who was not born in Ireland, I really had to create a community around me when I became a mother, because I didn't have, like cousins and aunts and uncles and my own parents with me. So I really had to kind of create my own village for myself. And a lot of that came through support groups and friends of friends who became my village. So it's great to know about these services, and so that other people can maybe feel less alone in going through parenting, and just even receiving the wisdom from other people who've gone through it themselves. What actually brought you into Cuidiú?
Well, I was working and I really wanted to do my antenatal classes at the weekends, and the hospitals weren't facilitating it at the time. And this was 6.5 years ago. So I had to ask the midwives, is there nowhere I can get an evening antenatal class? And one of the midwives happened to know about Cuidiú and gave me their a business card for the website. And from there, I found the antenatal teachers and I found one in my area. So as it turns out, this lovely lady, Mim, she was also running the local breastfeeding support group from her home every second week. So having had the antenatal class with her, I felt comfortable going to her home. Not everybody might feel comfortable going into a stranger's home, but yeah, she was fantastic. She just brought you in and made you tea, and you sat and had chats, and you had everybody from newborns right up to extended breastfeeders popping in, having a chat, and you got to see the different stages of childhood, babyhood, toddlerhood, all in the one room, and you got to hear what other people were experiencing, and well, that's ahead of me. Because as much as you can read or you can ask people about their personal experiences, there's nothing like, I suppose, seeing it firsthand and hearing it firsthand. A lot of what Cuidiú try and do is to make sure that people have informed decision making, both for antenatal decisions, labour decisions, and in parenthood when they're making decisions about how to educate their children, whether it's homeschooling, whether it's mainstream school, it's where to find the information to make the decisions to be the parent you want to be. And that's what we're about. It's helping people find all the information so that they can make informed decisions.
I love that so much. It's so important. And I think it is one of those things where, again, being someone who isn't from here, like the school system is it's just something I'm so unfamiliar with and how to navigate through. So I'm happy to know that that's actually available. And I'm probably going to come to you and ask a few questions as well, because I'll be entering that territory soon. But I guess if someone were to want to volunteer with you, like what would that look like? What would the process be like for them to do that?
Ideally, you'd find your nearest branch and just make yourself known to, there's usually a list of contact details up on the website for somebody in the branch that's nearest to you. And if you touch base with them, they'll usually arrange calls and just find out kind of where you are and what your availability is. Some people find themselves at home with a baby and during long naps, not really sure what to be doing with themselves. Other people are manic busy right up until kids start school, and then they find themselves with a couple of hours in the morning, or maybe it's just a couple of hours at the weekend where they're working and they're juggling home life, but they want to be doing something in the community because they've kind of lost touch having gone back to work. So there's usually something available, and it's really very much down to the individual volunteer and what their ability is. So if their availability is 1 or 2 hours a week and they would like to just be available to take telephone calls, they can say, this is my availability. If anyone wants to ring me at the weekends, I'm here for a chat. And for others, they might have fantastic skills in IT or in admin, and they may say, well, look, I can't commit to being on call because my kids are never really here, but I can do a bit of admin because we are 100% volunteer run. So that is from the top down. We've got the board of directors, the admin council, the local committee, the people who make the tea and coffee at the volunteer groups, at the toddler groups. There's always somebody baking, bringing something somewhere. But the great thing about it, and we're running free cycle groups in a lot of our groups too. So, it's a great place to go to find something that, children can be expensive, whether it's equipment for babies, whether it's the bouncer or it's the cot, or if it's, I think my toddler might do well with a grow clock, but I want to try it before I buy it. You'll find somebody who has it, who can give you a bit of feedback on it, and usually he'll loan it to you or give it to you if they're out of that stage and they're trying to do a clear out. So it's nice to know it's going to somebody nearby who's actually going to make use of it.
Yes, absolutely. The free cycle groups are so helpful, so valuable. And what should someone do if maybe there isn't a branch in their local area, and they want to establish one? What does that look like? Or is that an option?
Well, absolutely. I suppose a big part of what we do is try to help provide support in areas where there is no support. And we've had many mothers come to us. Our general email is info@cuidiú.ie, and people come to us saying, look, I would like to set up some sort of a group in my area. The benefits of contacting us and setting up as a volunteer is that obviously we've got our volunteers insurance. We make sure that the volunteer themselves aren't biting off more than they can chew. We provide a network for them to come to us and to debrief. If somebody wants to get trained in active listening and they want to go on to become a breastfeeding counsellor, or maybe their passion is in antenatal and becoming an antenatal teacher, we've training programs for all of our volunteers. Or if they just want to be able to organise a walking group in their area and go for walks with parents, we have all of those. I think one of our more unusual things are our all year round swim groups that go for sea swimming, but it's great that we do try to link in as well with other local communities and to make sure that anything that we can do to help new parents, and the new parents tend to be how people find us when they have a real need, whether it's for information or for contact, but a lot of our volunteers do stay with us.
And if someone wants to be trained specifically in or being a breastfeeding counsellor, they want to facilitate a breastfeeding support group, what does that look like?
Well, our counsellors, the training program takes between 18 and 24 months, and people will come to us hopefully with some breastfeeding experience, because we think that's very important, whether it's breastfeeding, pumping, combination feeding. Your personal experience brings a lot to your ability to support others. And for the training program, we just ask that you have 6 months of experience with your own baby and that you've touched base with your nearest branch. Now, your nearest branch could be the next county over, or maybe you just want to contact the national team. Our branches are wide ranging. We have Donegal, Galway, Kerry, Cork, Waterford, Dublin, Drogheda, and the Midlands. So we kind of hit most of the country. There's going to be a branch near enough. And because all of our work at the minute is virtual and online, there'll be no reason really why you can't link in with your local branch and maybe attend some of the online groups and just experience what it is to be a member of Cuidiú. And then from there, we can do some training with you after you've had your 6 months of experience with the local branch. And it's important as well, like if you're going to go down the road of volunteering is there's so many things that can happen for volunteers, especially if they have young families. And if you can attend something for 6 months and then you can commit to doing the training for 18 months to 2 years thereafter, you're in a better place to give that commitment. And during that time, obviously, we make sure that everybody is in the headspace to do it. Things happen a lot in personal families. A lot of our volunteers who may need to take a bit of time out because they just realize there's too many balls in the air, they come back after 6 months, 12 months, and they come right back to supporting others when they have the time to do that.
It's nice to know that the environment is supportive enough that they can say, I need a bit of a break, but then, they can come back as well and feel okay to do that.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we are about supporting parents, and our volunteers are the ones who provide that support. So it's always family first. And if you're not in a good place at home, time-wise, headspace-wise, then you can't provide that support to others.
Absolutely. And you touched on it a bit earlier, but part of the reason why I wanted to put together this book of breastfeeding stories is because I found there was such a generational gap where a lot of people hadn't seen breastfeeding themselves. So I wanted to provide visuals as well as stories of personal experiences to go together for people who maybe haven't seen it. Could you just speak to the power of what it's like to see parenting, to see breastfeeding, to be able to see other people that are maybe a few steps or years or months even ahead of your own journey?
Absolutely. I suppose there's a lot of books out there. If anybody had the perfect book, they'd be very, very rich. You wouldn't have so many on the shelves. So a lot of what we do is, I suppose, we just try and support parents where they are at, and we encourage them to come along to our groups. It's completely judgment free. So however you choose to parent, we're there to support you in your choices and to make sure you're making all the choices that you want to make with as much information as you want to have. I know that for a lot of our new mums, they come along to groups and they see other newborns. They're able to talk to other parents about just how that all encompassing feeling of having a newborn is. And while they might have thought they were prepared, that things are always different when you're in the middle of it. And then you've got the 6-month-olds who are learning to crawl in front of you. You've got your 12-month-olds, and you're hearing parents speak about the journey they're having at that time, and it's becoming normalized for you. So when you're in the middle of it yourself, you don't feel so overwhelmed. This is a normal stage. And you know, whether it's having a fantastic, everyone's sleeping well, everyone's getting on well moment, it's short-lived because everything happens and changes quickly. And also if things aren't going well and you're not getting a lot of sleep, it's a phase. This too shall pass. Just try and roll with it and take each day as it comes. And when you're having a day where you're finding it tough, it is lovely to just say, God, I need to meet somebody for a cup of coffee. And at this point, whether it's a virtual one or a real one, you can just say, is anybody available to just have a chat? I need to speak to a grown-up and not a toddler. And what's fantastic, I suppose, about for us as a branch, in the Dublin County North branch is one of the bigger ones, but it's great to see the newer branches starting up and see them grow. And for us, our founding members are becoming grandparents, and they're in a new stage of parenting where they're parenting their children who are now become parents. And it's great to have all the experience in front of you as well.
That's such a beautiful cycle that now they're at that stage and they're seeing, I guess, the full spectrum. You know, they're walking through that full spectrum of parenthood. If I always speak to people that I have on about legacy, because a lot of what we do at Well Fed Photography is about the legacy that we leave behind and living a life that outlives us. So if you could leave behind a legacy through the work that you're doing with Cuidiú, or even just what you're doing in your own family as a parent, what would you like part of your legacy to be?
I guess one thing that I've really seen in action is that the volunteers who have time, even if it's only 1 or 2 hours a week, to sit and support others, they are the ones who are supporting the next generation of volunteers. So those original volunteers, and there were only a handful at the time, you know, we're now an organization with over 2,000 members, and they're the members who are joining to attend things, but also most of them go on to become volunteers themselves. We have interactions with tens of thousands of people outside of our membership on a day-to-day basis. And we have some fantastic statistics from our annual audits where we see just how many people our members and our volunteers are affecting and helping and just being a listening ear to. So I suppose for every person you sit and have a cup of coffee with, they're going to go on and have a cup of coffee with 10 more, and it pays forward. And it's just amazing to see in action.
I love that so much. If people want to get in touch or they want to find their local branch, where's the best place for them to do that?
I would, if you're in any way unsure, cuidiú.ie, we have our list of all of our branches on that site. And if you're not able to find one in your immediate area, just contact info@cuidiú.ie and one of the admin council will get back to you with some information. On there as well is a list of actual telephone contacts for counsellors who are available to take calls 7 days a week, sometimes at crazy hours of the day and night. A text or a call is always, if you don't get the first person on the list, it doesn't have to be anybody in your area either. Call them. If they're not available, call the next person. It's somebody who's going to be at home with their own family around them in the middle of something. If they can't talk straight away, they usually make an appointment for you to give them a call back later when they know they'll have quiet time around them to listen and to hear your story. So, and I would encourage anybody who wants a listening ear to call anyone on that list. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody who is breastfeeding. And in many cases, our breastfeeding counsellors obviously have their telephone numbers up there, but we have people who contact us who just want to talk about their labour, who want to talk about their parenting journey, who want to talk about something that's not particularly going well for them at that time. And we have our parent-to-parent supporters as well. So we have a bunch of volunteers who are trained in listening and talking to people who are just having a hard time. So for us, we really just want to help people who feel that they doesn't need to have anything going wrong with their day. They might just want to talk to somebody about their day, and they're finding it hard to get someone else to pick up the phone.
Well, it's definitely needed. I couldn't think of a time that is more needed. So thank you for all the work that you're doing. Thank you to your amazing team of volunteers. And thank you so much for being here with us to tell us a bit more about it. Is there anything else that you feel we haven't covered that maybe we should mention, or?
I think we've covered a lot. I could talk about this all day. But I suppose the main thing is just, if people feel that they have time at this time to reach out and help others, whether they are finding themselves at home because they're not unavailable to go to work and they're not sure what's going on, or maybe they feel they need to speak to somebody because everything's getting on top of them, then obviously we are available to listen, and we will always accept volunteers.
Well, thank you so much, Elaine. I have no doubt there will be more people to get in touch after this, and I'm so happy that you were willing to come on and have this chat. And thank you again. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Listen, thanks for having me.
All the best. Bye.
Bye.